Hi, I'm Julie. Welcome to Mend. Today on Mend, we have Dr. Eduardo Perez, and he is here today because he's a survivor of family suicide, and he is going to share with us his life and his story. So thank you, Dr.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, yes. Thank you for being here.
Not a problem.
So I got the pleasure of talking with your sister, and just loved speaking with her, and she talked to us a little bit about your brother, but I was hoping that you could share a little bit more about your life and tell us a little bit more about your brother and what you are doing now, I know, to help survivors of family suicides and just to help in mental health world, I guess, in general. I know you have a lot going on, so I'm excited to talk with you.
Okay, great. Okay. Thanks for having me, first of all.
Of course.
Yes, there was a suicide in our family. We were 5 children, 5 siblings, and I am the middle one, and he was the next one in the family. And the thing I remember is that he was always very active. He was a very active kid ever since he was a little kid. And for me, really, I moved away at an early age. I was 18 when I came to the United States to go to school. So there was a little bit of sibling rivalry every time I went back, but I knew that he was very smart and very outstanding. And over the course of the years, it actually, he had 3 attempts actually. And the third one was the one where he finally did it. He was successful in his attempt. My parents, I remember going to visit my brother in Paris because they had just recently become grandparents. And all of a sudden I get a phone call and they said, your brother's in a really bad situation. He wants to jump off of the building and he is really in serious trouble in Australia. And for me, it was one of those things where I don't need to think about this. There was nobody there. And I had the resources to be able to get on the plane and go. And literally it was one of those things. I dropped everything, went over there, and literally called them. And I said, I'm going to be there. I'll be there. And it was 24 hours. Mm-hmm. So I flew over there, made it over there. And I think the fact that he knew that I was going there was enough for him to not go through with it. Mm-hmm. But we talked a lot about it. And it was a turning point in our lives because we were both now adults. He had moved on to continue his studies. I had finished my studies over here in the United States, and we were able to bond. We bonded, and the most difficult thing for me was to actually come back to the States knowing that he was in a very delicate state, mental state. Mm-hmm. But fortunately, he was able to pick it up, and school was something that he was pursuing. And I think that focus on going to school and doing really well, that's what got him out of that situation. Okay. So.
And then, so then you came back and you felt like he was doing okay for a while.
And he did okay for a long, long time. He actually got married in Australia, had a child, and adopted one. His wife, she got into another relationship, and they decided to split. In Australia, it's a year-long process to get divorced. Where here in Texas, in 60 days, you're gone. Okay, you're separate. You can go separate ways. Right. Over there is 1 whole year because you have 1 whole year to address all of the child issues, children issues, real estate, money, debts, and all of that. So they give you a year so that by the end of the year, everybody knows what they get, where they go, who they stay with, and things like that. And what happened was they had come to an agreement about on the 8th month or something like that. So there was another 4 months to go. She worked for the police and put a restraining order to see his child. Mm-hmm. And I believe we believed that that was the thing that took him over the edge. Mm-hmm. And it was, I received a suicide note. And it was a reality check when I got that note, because I was coming from a business trip from a CEO in a billion-dollar company that handpicked me to work with him. And it was my wife's 40th birthday. And we had come back from a trip to Cozumel. And literally the next day I come back, I read the note. And I start moving things up and down and figure out. By the time the call goes through, the roommate answers the phone and says, "I'm sorry to tell you, but your brother has passed away." And all of that, all that path stuff that I'd like to talk about later. I mean, that literally goes out the door. You are never prepared for a traumatic event like that. I don't care how much educated you are. I've seen it. It happens all the time. When it happens to you, everything that you've learned, everything that you know, however professional you are, literally goes out the door. Mm-hmm. And for me, the next thing that happened to me, because I received the suicide note and explaining exactly what he wanted me to do and how to take care of his children, I got really obsessed with that. Here's the thing, that when these events happen, it's like a chain reaction. I got divorced. Mm-hmm. I got fired. And I was literally 1 month away from not being able to pay mortgage. Okay? And it was like, okay, this is my last ditch effort. And I went over there. I tried to fix it. I tried to talk to attorneys. And it was, no, if you pay $25,000, we'll go to court and we'll figure it out. And there's no guarantees. And at that point, 9 months had gone by. And I'm literally on the plane flying back. And literally, I don't know what I'm doing. I am really messed up. I need help. Not a little help. I need a lot of help. And literally, and it was one of those things. I got off the plane, called the therapist, called the psychiatrist, called my family doctor, and what I need to do. I started reading books, started talking back to my sister. And it got to that point where I said, like, the opposite of what most people that commit suicide and attempt suicide, for me, it was the other way around. It's like, I can't live like this anymore. I have to get up and get going and start again. And literally, and it was a decision that I made. And in 2 weeks, everything felt, it's amazing. In 2 weeks, I had a job. I was able to pay my mortgage. I was able to function. I found a support group. And I actually found several support groups. And I went to therapy. I talked to my doctor. I talked to my psychiatrist. I was taking medicine to, I couldn't sleep. I was shaking. I couldn't sleep. If I'd sleep, it would be not one of those deep sleeps. Mm-hmm. And it just took a lot of effort, but it was in my mind. I got to that point where I said, like, I have to get up. I have to move forward, and I have to clean up my mess and go forward. And I'm telling you, everything in a matter of weeks fell back into place.
So I'm so happy that transition ended up happening quickly for you, especially when you're feeling like you're at the bottom and you have nothing left. Mm-hmm. When you look back on it, I mean, to get that note from your brother, and can I ask you, was that a written letter or was it an email?
Yes, it was an email.
It was an email.
It was an email written to me. Okay. Yes.
And then to not be able to be there after y'all had bonded in such a way after the last attempt, I'm sure that had to weigh on you.
Oh, yes.
Somehow.
A lot.
Yeah.
In fact, when as soon as I found out, same thing, right? Get on the plane. My brother actually flew from Paris. I flew from the United States. We met over there and did all the funeral arrangements. And the hardest thing for me personally was feeling that I had betrayed him, that I wasn't there because I was with the CEO in the Caribbean and all of these great things. And I was like supposedly having the life of my time, and he's going through this transition. Okay. And I feel guilt. I feel like I betrayed him. I feel like I wasn't a good brother. You go through all of I should have done this. I could have done, why? Okay. Why did I pay too much attention to the money with the CEO, the trip to the CEO, the great trip to Cozumel with, all these great things. And it means absolutely nothing when you get the news that your brother's dead. Okay. It was hard to, just like the first time getting back on the plane, it was hard to get back on the plane because I was feeling that I hadn't been a good brother. Mm-hmm.
Do you see that differently now?
Completely.
Okay.
In fact, if as we go through my life story, really, and the purpose of the support group that me and my sister do periodically, we do almost biweekly, it's really to let people know that there's hope, that you can rebuild your life, and you will become a much better person after you go through the process. And I guarantee you, I don't care how difficult the situation is. I don't care if you want to transcend it, you will become a better person. There's no doubt in my mind. All of these things have made me a better person.
One of the stories on here, his name is Tanner, and I'll never forget, he said it was almost like his brother had to die in order to show him how to live. And that will stick with me forever.
Yes, it does. And in fact, the best way to honor those people is for you to live your life fully. Mm-hmm. Period. Yeah. Okay.
Well, and then so on top of that, after you left, then you dealt with his whole estate. So you're spending 9 months of not really even truly being able to grieve him properly or to mourn him. It is like you are in go mode to figure out everything for his children. And that itself, I can't imagine how much pressure that is on you.
It was a self-inflicted pressure, first of all. And escaped me what I was going to tell you. Yes, it was a form of denial as well. I'm very clear about that now, and it's a way to not accept what really happened. And it was like, okay, if I focus on this, if I focus on carrying out his estate, his last wishes, that's the most important thing. But it was a denial. It was definitely a denial. It was a distraction. And I admire the people that we've had the fortune of having people coming in like a week. We had one person actually come the 2 or 3 days after there was a meeting, and her loved one had passed away 3 days before and came to the meeting. And you're going like, it took me 9 months. And there's some people that said like, it took me a year. It took me 10 years. 10 years. We had one girl that said like, it happened 8 years ago, but this is the first time I come to a meeting because I still don't know what's going on. And it's back to what you say. It's about educating people on mental health. Yeah. Mental health awareness.
It really is. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. From a young age. That's one thing I talked to your sister about, which I really, hopefully we can advocate for moving forward. So after you said it didn't take long though, what were the steps that you took? So you're about to have nothing. Mm-hmm. I mean, not a home, no job. What took over that allowed you to completely make this transformation in a few weeks?
Yes, it started it started by knowing that this was not me. Okay, that what I was doing was a distraction, a denial, and that it was not me. But like I said, everything fell into place very quickly as far as getting my life organized. But the learning process is never ending. Okay, so I don't want people to feel that, all of my issues went away in a couple of weeks either. Okay, it wasn't like that. It was a conscious decision of I can do better. I'm better than this, and start moving forward. And it takes a long time. But the reason it takes a long time is because you're continually growing, not because you haven't accepted what had happened, but because you're continually growing. And that's why I say there's hope, and you get to be a much better person because of, unfortunately, for these tragic events. But those are the things that kind of knock on the door and say, like, hey, buddy, it's time to live. It's time to jump into life.
Jump into life, yeah.